This is Joyce,
And Blake.
and
And
welcome
welcome
to Savagely
Savagely
Scale.
Scaled. So, in this episode, we are talking about, well, let me start that over. I always felt like we see new members come at the gym. We also have our older members, but I wanted to know like how people decide to quit something or if it's burnout or things like that. So, this episode is kind of big and it's going to be honest, reflective. We hope that it's very growth driven and, of course, very savagely scaled about this athlete and for our life energy. But we want to go into, did I almost quit? What is a burnout? Or did this burnout teach me anything? So we'll get into that episode in. So, all right, guys, today is not like about a PR episode. I guess it's not a hype episode of like what normally our episodes go into. And it might not be sign up for that next competition episode either. It's the episode where we tell you why we almost quit. If Joyce ever did, I don't know. There are times with me. Or anything that was like our burnout sessions. When we started
Right.
CrossFit, have you ever almost quit? And not in that dramatic way where we throw that belt across the way and just say, I'm leaving. It's more of like that quiet time in your head or things just felt heavy and undoable. You know, that mental strain that we have. Why am I doing this? And all the above, and that could come into like a burnout or, what Joyce has also talked about with like, when we undertrain, when we overtrain, I think the question for me when that happens or these burnout happen is, why am I here? Why am I doing this? Or even for training, like if you undertrain, it's, what am I doing this? Am I just coming to the gym and I could just go on elliptical or overdoing things in a sense? I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I think there's definitely like a fine line. And I'm glad that we're talking about this because there's obviously, I don't want to say it's a dark side of CrossFit, but I think it's like the gray side of being an athlete. In that there comes this like trying to find what I call the Goldilocks zone into where you're not undertraining or overtraining, but you're finding that nice balance. But like you said, there's so many things going on around us, whether it's actual physical things from the gym or just things going on at home that impact whether you're overtraining or undertraining.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like you've mentioned, I think we go through waves in life where sometimes you just don't want to show up to the gym. And at least for me, when I get in moods and I get sad, I'm the total opposite and I want to be in the gym more. Because to me, it's like I have nothing else to do. I am not being productive. And the only win I do have is the gym. So I tend to
Yeah.
overtrain and overdo it. But I know there's people that are the total opposite. And when they get into their modes, they're like, I just want to be in bed and I don't want to show up to the gym. And don't get me wrong, I'm the person that tends to eat her feelings. Like I
Yeah.
love food and that's the way I feel like I kind of usually handle emotions. But for me, I think personally, when I talk about emotions in the gym, I think for me, it's always been more of an overtraining versus undertraining. But what about you, Blake? What do you think are you more one or the other?
I don't know. So like right now I feel in like a good place, right? We go over our goals and what we've been doing and especially last year with goals. But before all that, before I kind of got on track, there were those moments when I would probably be both, but I would also go into the gym and I would be like, I would ask myself, am I training because I love CrossFit or because I don't know who I am without it? Am I coming into the gym because I love working out or am I coming to the gym because I love just being the people? And who am I without this? And when I questioned that, it was kind of like a domino effect because I didn't have a goal at the time. I didn't have anything. It was just coming in and it was like 20 different mini goals that I felt like, oh, if I do, like 10 toes to bar today, it's going to get me 10 more tomorrow and then I'll be at 20. If I do this and there'd be times when I'd come in and be like, but why does it matter how many toes to bar do I do? Why does it matter how many pull-ups and then there'd be some days where I'd be like, why does it matter doing pull-ups at all? I can't even do a bar muscle up, you know? And then it would be going back to that overtraining, which wasn't really training because I didn't have set accessories. I didn't have set goals. I didn't have set workouts. There were times where I would go in between and be like, okay, well, I'm going to do Invictus. Now I'm going to do Proven. And that
Mm.
kind of helped me. I would train with Dave and Jared on certain days that I could. It became so much of under and over that I was
Uh,
beginning to have a burnout. And I
Interesting.
didn't want that because I have enjoyed CrossFit so much throughout my life, throughout my 20s, into my 30s with the kids that I didn't want that to happen.
Right.
And, it did take me a couple years to realize, and we just recently talked about this, that in order to maybe not have those things happen, you need something set in front of you. Like we said, like a date of something. And I know back then I wasn't ready, but it was like even back then when you talked to Burnout with me and people would be like, well, maybe you need a deload week. And I'd be like, what the heck's a deload week? I've been doing
Um,
CrossFit for years, but didn't know that. I thought if I went to weightlifting, then my CrossFit would become crappier. Cardio, yeah, got that. But it was just, doing that. Right now, in my life right now, I don't feel like I do under or over because
mm,
I have set programming. And that could be a good step for people is having set programming in a sense, but we do come to class and you have set programming by your coach.
mm,
But have you ever
right.
gone to the gym and been like, why am I here? Do I like just the people or do I
Oh,
like the
yeah.
working out?
I think when we talk about, now that you're bringing it up, it's kind of interesting how we're saying both undertraining and overtraining are not just like a physical way of being, but it's a physiological, like psychological kind of
Yeah.
experience that we're experiencing. I think mentally, like, yeah, I've definitely had days where I'm just like, I'm just here and I just need to do something and I just need to be around people. Cause like, I work from home. So the only time I
Yeah.
get to interact with human beings is for like that 1 or 2 hours I'm at the gym. So for me, like sometimes I'm just like, I feel like absolute, crap. Like this is the only
Yeah.
thing that's going to make me feel better. So yeah, I've definitely had those moments where I'm just like not feeling it and the people are what make it. But I feel like even just energy wise, like kind of how I know we're going to talk about ego and kind of how it plays a
Yeah.
role in training, but I feel like when it comes to overtraining and undertraining, I have this like, I guess in the overtraining aspect, like I just feel like I'm burning the candle at both ends. And then like the candle's gone because I'm just like in fight or flight constantly of like, my shoulder hurts, but I'm just going to push through it and I'm going
Yeah.
to be fine. Right. Or, to what I think I struggle with a lot too is rest days. Like my ego is always telling me like, oh, you don't need a rest day. Like, and even if
Yeah.
I do take a rest day, I feel like guilty that I didn't work out that day or I didn't do anything, that it almost feels bad for me. And I have a feeling that a lot of people share that feeling also.
Mhm.
Mm, And it's weird how psychologically you would think that when like your body actually like needs that like time and space to not be fried, because that's pretty much what I'm doing is just frying my body by going to the gym 6 times or 7 times a week and not giving it the right care that it needs. So I feel like there's that in terms of what I struggle with personally. And I feel like it can fluctuate and it could be very different with men and women. I would love to hear kind of how guys kind of face and confront that when it comes
Yeah.
to ego and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I guess in the women perspective, in terms of kind of like what that feels like for me, I feel like I feel fluctuations in like my performance. Like some days I'm nailing it, some days I'm awful.
Mhm.
I feel like sometimes sleep is hard for me. And then for women, like menstrual cycles, I've noticed sometimes like my cycles are just off in
Yeah.
timing. And again, things that I like just happen and I don't really think about, but when I like look deeper into it, like and look at the science of it and what overtraining does, it's a lot of cortisol, which is what pretty much keeps you awake. So that's why when we have like that exercise high, quote unquote, that we all
Yeah,
try
the
to get,
high.
yeah, you feel very like, alert, on point, great. And then sometimes like it just comes down and crashes down.
Yeah.
And I feel like struggling with that has also been something that in part of like overtraining I've had to kind of like navigate as well. That's why working out late can be hard sometimes because
It
you're
can.
still kind of like lit up in that fight or flight response. But yeah, I feel like as an athlete, psychologically, you struggle with all those things because you're an athlete and you care and you want to get better. And this is what you do every single day for
Mhm.
365 days, like, and it's hard to not be in that mindset all the time. And it's
Yeah.
exhausting now that I think about it. Because we're talking about nutrition, we're talking about like mobility, we're talking about like strength, and we're talking about cardio. And there's just so much to it that it's so easy to not just like physically overtrain, but mentally
Mhm.
overtrain. I don't
Yeah,
know
and
about
that's, like,
you.
the mental part, because that's, like, the burnout thing that,
Yeah.
discussing in the beginning, but I wanna go back there, like, I do remember, like, when I started CrossFit, it was, like, when I missed a workout, it felt like I was falling behind, and I don't know who
Mhm.
I was falling behind, but I was
Yeah.
falling behind, and it was more of a fear, because that's not discipline, that's a fear that somebody has is, "Oh, I'm not going to get pull-ups because I missed those 2 days. I'm not going to
Right.
get those, I have to get my 7 days in because I have to go to the gym." And that can transition into when the gym starts to feel like something you have to do instead of something that you want to do. Because when we have to lose weight, do we want to? No, it is when we want to get better at something that helps us. But I know when I was younger, I thought that. And there's still times. So going back to missing sessions, 2.5 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, depending on when this comes out, you know, I had a household that was sick again. I had a household sick in December, me, this time, my kids, and of course they couldn't get sick at on the same day. It was different days and I was gone for a whole week. The same time that I felt, even though that was Christmas week or whatnot, or the week before Christmas, I don't remember in December. That was just December was everywhere because of holidays. And January, having the kids sick, I felt in my programming, I went back to, oh my gosh, I'm going to be behind. Oh my gosh, these are percentages I have to hit. Oh my gosh, I have something that I'm trying to do in, April, 8 weeks away, 9 weeks away, or 10, whatever. So having the sick kids or having, life stack up, because it was not only sick kids, it was like, oh, my house is in shambles. I have to clean. And then that led to a whole week of missing sessions. Drove me absolutely nuts to not think that I was, worthless as a human being. Now, that's really big when I say it out loud because I'm not a worthless human being, nowhere near a worthless human being. But it made me feel that way knowing that all the other girls are training. And not all of us are doing the same training, but all of us are training. They're going to get better than me. They're going to do, and I had to sit there, and sometimes you remind me, Maggie will remind me, and it's just like, but when you come back, you're going to hit what you can hit. You're going to let your body, do what it can. You're not a bad person because life hit you. And that kind of, I needed that at times too, but that can also lead to like quitting or underworking or overworking and burnout. Like all of those, I feel just go so much hand in hand where you have outside life stacking up on you, outside things stacking up on you, and you
Mhm.
want to hit these things, or you just want to go to the gym to move, because there are some of us who just want to go to move, and that's okay. There's some
Right.
that have, Terry came in and she is in her 70s. Yeah, I thought she was in her early 60s. Okay,
So
because I
did
know she's a
I.
grandma of older kids. Yes, she is
Wow.
in her 70s. And there comes a
I'm
point where
so
like, I just
impressed.
want to move. And she's like, I want to get stronger, So even oldest person in the gym wants something out of this.
Wow.
And there could be things that happen. I know people who come in and we always go, "Oh man, I don't like these movements." But I did back in the day. I would dread some workouts to where I would have to make myself go. And there's also workouts that make me very upset and irritable
Mhm.
and hated coming. And I again would go into that. Am I helping myself by doing this workout and doing it? And it needs to just be said to maybe you do need lighter weights. if things are making you that upset that you can't hit, there's that snatch that I can't hit. I can't get over 90. I can't get over 90. Maybe we need to work on technique at a lower weight. And that's just
Right.
deloading, looking at it that way, because those could be, parts where people go, then why do I need this? I'm not getting better. I have to work around my schedule. It's either, one day a week that I feel great here, or, they say this community, and then I feel like people quit. And
Mhm.
it's just, to me, that's just like, can go into like the mental burnout of everything because everything's just crashing down on them and they don't know how to organize it yet.
That's
And
a
to
good
me, that
point.
carries on not only in the gym, but for your life. Because if we can't organize things for the gym, then what are we organizing? Are we just organizing work? Is that going to turn into a burnout for work? Is it going to turn into
True.
overdoing at work, or then now becoming an underachiever at work? It
That's a good point.
really just ends up being like a life lesson of it.
Girl, I didn't
But,
even
like,
think about it that way.
like, when you have traveling coming up, like, how does that set you up for, like, a mental burnout?
It sends me into a mental breakdown. I'm just kidding. But it is something that I have been like, again, I guess the stress of staying on track is something that comes up, especially when we go on vacation or travel or visit family. And my family's the kind of family that's like, you're not going to eat the delicious food that I made you. And I'm always just like, Grandma. And of course, like, I can't say no to the pan dulce. You know what I mean? So I know I'm gonna face that with family. So I feel like I try to find the balance of like trying to control some things. Like, okay, maybe I will have my chile relleno, but I'm gonna have a side of some blueberries and fruit of dessert instead of a pan, or something
Mhm.
like that. Having to find like the things you can, in a sense, control versus those things that maybe you can't. And then kind of finding that balance of being okay if it's not going to work out, and like reminding yourself that you're traveling and you're not in your ideal environment right now for a short amount of time. I feel
Yeah.
like helping myself understand that helps me, but then I tend to come back and then I'm very hard on myself because I'm like, now I got to make up for all that lost time and get it together. And I think that's something that I battle with as an athlete too. Like sometimes I'm a little hard on myself in my body if I realize like if I feel like I'm cutting short in some things. And I feel like the way I do that a lot is in nutrition. So like if I, for example, feel like I didn't get a hard enough workout that day or whatever, I'll be like, oh, well, maybe I didn't earn my dessert today. So I'm just going to have something like a tea and like skip that, you know what I mean? And kind of do it that way. But if I had a hard workout, then I'm okay. I could have some chips today, like little things like that. And again, I think that's something that like athletes that are very hard on themselves possibly struggle with as well. I'm kind of finding those elements like, okay, what is the thing that I can control? And
Mhm.
I'm going to go hard on that because I just need some kind of a win today because everything else was just a loss. And I feel like sometimes that can be very dangerous. Um, and especially like with things like anorexia, right? And like
Yep.
bulimia, things that are a little bit more real and things like that. And I personally had a past of that. I don't know if I've shared that in the podcast, but when I was in my 15s, 16s, I did have a year or two where I was anorexic and my mom was kind of in denial of it. Um, and for some time, I had a relationship with food that was not very healthy, and I was overtraining and not feeding my body what it needed because I was obsessed with the idea of being a certain weight.
Mhm.
And the societal pressure to be that weight was everywhere. And it was crazy. I remember running 6 miles in the morning and just eating a power bar for like lunch and not really eating anything until my mom got home. And I'd pretty much cover my bases because I'd be like, oh, my mom's watching me eat, so she's not going to give me a hard time. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it was crazy. Like when I think back on it, I was just like, oh my gosh, like that was so bad. And my body was so frail.
Yeah.
And for a point, I didn't have my menstrual cycle for like a year. And in my mind, I didn't think it was a big deal, but the doctor was like, no, that shouldn't be happening. And I feel like I find myself sometimes in those periods
Yeah.
where like, that mindset sometimes comes back and I kind of have to reel it in and be like, it's okay. Like, we're not there anymore. That's not who we are now. And having to kind of like, I guess, find that balance to where I don't go into that rabbit hole again. I feel like since then, of course, my grasp is way more different, and I learned a lot with, like, nutrition with Amanda, and CrossFit in itself taught me a lot because I was just cardio back in the day.
Mhm.
Mm, and I feel like this sport in particular almost, like, demanded that I give it more in the sense of food and protein and things like that, so I had
Yeah.
to kinda work with that. But I think, like, when it comes to food too, and ego is definitely a thing that and control, I would say, is something that I would struggle to find a balance with, and I feel like is a big part of that burnout or undertraining that can happen, like, if we really don't feed and fuel ourselves right.
Yeah, I feel like that is a very it can go into, like, the physical burnout or the mental,
Mhm.
especially, like, when you were saying, like, ego or anything, or even with eating, that comparison spiral,
Yep,
and
happens all the time.
I feel more people quit gyms or things because they are always comparing themselves to somebody else in this class.
I feel
That could be
yeah.
CrossFit, that could be work, that could be, if you're dancing, gymnastics, like life in general, I can sit by next to somebody and the first thing I am is comparing myself to them, especially if I feel they're better
Mm,
or if I'm like, oh, I know this. So I'm going to be, we we are always comparing ourselves, and when people come to CrossFit, the first thing I hear all the time from new people, and this could be male or female because we do give a lot of flack to the guys who always wanna lift heavier than the ladies, all the stinking time when they're there. But I also find
true.
it in women too. Well, especially ones who start at the same time and they know that they join the gym at the same time. Well, she's doing that weight. How come she gets the 35-pound bar and I still get the 15-pound bar?
Mm,
How come I can't do a pull-up and they can? And I'm like, "Do you know their background? Do you know that they used to do this as a kid? Do you know like, they might not look like
they've
it
been doing it
now."
for 10 years,
Yeah,
like,
they used to
it's true,
lift
yeah.
or they're athletic. Do you have an athletic background? Like, people who are athletic, you're gonna see it come across. People who
That's
used to
true.
do upside down stuff, being in a handstand's gonna be a lot easier than people who've never been in handstands, and now I'm making you do a handstand at the age of 40.
Girl,
It's that
yes.
comparison, and when we do that, it's that constant. I'm like, "You are the only person in this. Nobody else is lifting this. You're lifting it. This is your RX today, and I know that button drives people nuts." It's just to also give those
Yeah,
people who did that, you did those weights, that accomplishment. Your accomplishment is you came here, you still lifted heavy for yourself. I'm sorry you didn't get to hit that button, but I guarantee in a year you're going to not be lifting this.
true.
It's things to look at. To me, that is why most people quit something is because of the comparison spiral. You also get the
Mhm.
comparison from how people look and
Yeah,
being like, well, they lost 10 pounds their first month. I didn't, and that leads to irritation that they're coming or
frustration.
I just feel like there's so many things that can hook into each other and then drive you down, right? You're comparing yourself. That's making you come
Mm,
less to the gym. Oh, well, now I've missed a week. So now everybody's better than me. I don't know how to get back. It was so hard to get back in the beginning. I traveled 2 weeks ago, getting back, and I'm like, I know it's hard coming back. Me, sometimes I tell people this, and it is the truth. After coming back from vacation, I would love to be on vacation for life. I'd love to be rich and travel for the rest of my life on a
right?
private jet, have my private, chef, and have a home gym that has everything I want. I would love that. Do you know why I have to come back to the gym? Because my boss scheduled me today. So guess what? Because he scheduled me today, because I told him I could come here when I gave him my schedule the month prior, I'm here and I'm working out. And I also pay for programming if I'm paying for it, I'm going to do it. Do I want
Yeah.
to? No. I absolutely don't want to come back after travel days. I used to also, my husband told me because I was becoming irritable and so stressed, he'd be like, at least the day that we come home, do not schedule yourself. If you can, the following day,
Mm,
also do not schedule yourself. He's like, unpacking, decompressing, like you're not going to want to go work or you're not going to want to go into the gym. And if you do, then
true.
do. Go stretch, go do that. But he's like, honey, you need to decompress from us traveling. You need to not stress out about the laundry. You need to not stress out about this. Let's get the kids back on their schedule and then we'll get on yours. It's just having
Love
that.
that.
Yeah. Because then we can go into, but again, but all those girls, they lifted for a whole week and Blake traveled. Blake ate. Blake had so much fun with her family, but they were getting the work done. I'm behind.
Right.
Guarantee you, every time I had a session, I felt like crap because I was just comparing myself and I was pushing myself and I wasn't giving myself that leeway and that breath that I needed to, and that's where all that under and over and burnout and wanting to quit and being like, this is not for me. Did we actually try it? Did we try it in all the ways? Or were we forcing something?
Right.
And that could be like I saw it a little bit when we were even going over your workouts and you're like, yeah, but I don't know if if I made it to NC.
Yeah.
Or when I was like, you won one of them. I did? No, but they might not take me, and it could be that too
A lot of
when we go
self-doubt,
into
yeah.
that self-doubt that creeps in where I'm literally, and we didn't record it, we only did audio, where I'm literally on the other side of the table staring at you going, you're in, you're gonna go. How does that help with you, physically and mentally with like qualifiers and getting ready? And I feel like we're just in a better place, but like past Joycey, how would you have handled it? I feel like you would have just overtrained everything.
Probably.
Because you want to be the best. Joycey, believe it or not, she's very nonchalant about things,
I
but
am,
Joycey
yeah.
does want to be the best.
I
She's
call
a
it
Taurus. She
humility, okay?
wants everybody to be like, look at that bull over there. That is the best bull. And that's a Taurus. I am the best bull.
I'm just kidding. Dee Dee's like, I agree. And I'm just like, look at me, I'm staring at the camera. I agree, Joycey. You're
Yeah.
absolutely
Stop
fabulous. That's so
it. You don't
funny.
want in or out. No more.
Dee Dee, you haven't spoken this whole time. I'm so
I know.
impressed.
But like going into that, I feel like last year, and I've done this, it was when you're a CrossFitter, you go into that mindset of no rest and we stack up all the goals.
Yeah.
And we want all the goals and we want to be on top and we just want all of them. And, it starts with a pull up and I want toes to bar. I'm tired of doing these modified and scaled movements. I want the next thing. And that can also get into it. And then causing injury. Like all of these things, guys, like can stack on top of each other and make it worse, or one big, huge explosion. It goes into then exhaustion. And how do I make myself go through the door to go to the gym if I already have all these things on top in my brain?
Yeah. You're not wrong.
It is, what you have to do. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel. We just gave you all the
That's
black
true.
tunnel, but there is that light, I have seen
Still
members.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have seen members who go, you know what? I should go lighter to work on my technique. You know what? My arm is hurting and I don't want to be out here. Or come to me and say, hey, I'm having this. Is there any other movement I can do? I love those days. I absolutely love those days. I do not love the days as much if I'm walking around and going, I'm noticing you're kind of babying that elbow. Yeah, I heard it. It doesn't feel good, and especially when I do this. Did it just happen? Because I'm okay if it just happened and we'll figure it out. No, yeah. I just wanted to see if I could do it. Okay. We did it. Now can we try something else? And you know what? They're working on lat activation this way. We're going to do it a different way. Same thing. It's trying to get that, and then maybe
how do you find the balance? So that's my question, because I feel like I'm the total opposite. Like I'll be like, well, I'm just gonna do these weights today, and then one day someone will be like, why won't you try this? And I'm like, all right, and then I try, I'm like, I probably could have done more, and then it's like
really hard. It's hard
it is
in
hard to find
class.
it.
Going back to classes, it's hard. When I do classes and somebody says you need to do 10 unbroken, I stick with a weight that I can do 10 unbroken. I also don't like super scale unless I'm hurt, right? But If
Right,
I'm
yeah.
like, "Okay," there's times when we can give you a percentage and be like, "Okay, my 50%." But if I know that it's 5 rounds and in the first 2 rounds, I'm doing singles when you told me to hold on to it for all 5 rounds, I did something wrong. I listened to
Mm,
everybody around me, which, yeah, sometimes it's nice to get that hype, right? You know, Joycey,
right,
when
yeah.
people are like, "Oh, Joyce, you could do way, way higher. You can do that. You
Mm.
can do that."
Oh, yeah.
It but it also comes back around to be like, "So, what does that mean for me if I'm not following what this workout is intended for?" It's a very, very
Right.
fine line that some workouts, you got it. Other workouts, when you have your friends being like,
That's
"No, do
true.
it," or you have a coach who's like, "No, definitely do it. You have this." It can be hard. I feel like with
Yeah.
you now, you're kinda understanding.
Yeah, I seem to gauge pretty well, like, "I'm not gonna do that way because I know that's gonna hurt me." I was like, "But I could do this," you know?
Mhm.
So I'm very good, I feel like, at gauging, especially when it comes to weight, because I know especially my shoulders are not very they do not like having heavy things overhead that much, so I try to be very
Yeah.
careful with that. But like I told you, there are instances where I'm like, "Oh, maybe I should have pushed a little bit more, tried something," and I go, like, months or weeks without trying something, and then I tried it and I'm like, "Oh, man, I could have probably done it a while ago, but I never pushed myself enough to try it," or things like that, that I never do it. But I feel like you mentioned, like, in class, it's great because coaches kinda know you because you come to class so they can kinda gauge, like, maybe you should do 1 or 2 instead of, like, unbroken, you know, or
Yeah.
something also, like, is that you guys give us, like, a chance to be like, "Okay, try your weights before we do the workout. Maybe you can do RX, maybe, like, you can't, but this is a time to try it." I feel like those moments help too, but I have the problem where I sometimes need to maybe amp it up a little bit more, and I tend to undercompensate myself, I suppose. Kinda like you've mentioned. I tend to
It
be
is,
too humble.
but it's hard to push yourself, and it's hard to know when sometimes to push you guys
Yeah. Yeah, that's
at
true.
times or what you want. There's a couple athletes, like,
Mm,
some of us know exactly what they want, and we're gonna try to get it, and then
right.
but if you want, like, these 20 different goals, we don't know which one you want, and then if we give you things and then you go, "Oh, I don't wanna do that because technically I'm scaling today if I do that," then it's like, you know, you're gonna go into that burnout. We need to remember that this is a long-term game. This is
Right.
you know, sometimes we do need to let go of timelines if you aren't working on things, if you're not doing certain things to help with your strict pull up, that 3 months could be a year. I tell people a lot of times, I go, it took me
True.
5 years to do a strict pull up because I wasn't working on it until I
Oh,
got
wow.
here. And I just thought it would magically happen because I got stronger. You
That's
know,
crazy. No, pull-up is one of those that I feel takes a very long time.
It does,
Like,
and
we
it does for
underestimate it.
women, and it's learning what
Yeah,
you're actually pulling down compared to, like, getting yourself there and you stress yourself out. There's so many things that go into it that it can take a longer time,
that's
and
true.
it's choosing that, and if you feel like you're overworked by that, maybe just go to class just to go to class. Go have
Mhm.
fun. Go look who's in a class and be like, "Let me go to that class to reset."
It's a good point, yeah.
Just have a good time. How we first started. Going in, meeting people, doing that whole thing, that scariness, but then finding out, "Oh, I like working out with so and so. Oh, I like competing against so and so." Going back to that instead of putting so much pressure on your body and on your mental health, because you got to realize that that high stress stays in your body.
That's true.
Learning how, not learning, but leaning more into that support around people or people around you, or that support that your coaches give you for the class, or even, after class being like, "Hey," or before class, I've had people being like, "It was a rough day for me, my body's
Mhm.
not okay." And I'm like, "Hey, let's go lighter day." Or some who are like, "I'm really ready for a class. I really want to hit RX or I want to get close. All right, I'm going to push that person today." There's just things to maybe look at when you come in. If you're having a really rough day, you might not hit the workout time that you wanted to. And don't let that fail you. It's you're having a rough day.
Mhm.
Sometimes lifting heavy does not fix your day.
It's true.
Sometimes when I'm angry, I can't lift the bar, and other days when I'm angry at that bar, I can lift it. It's very hit or miss. It's if I'm in the right headspace and I'm okay with everything that's going on around me and I'm not letting it pile up.
That's true,
It's
yeah.
learning
I
how,
have
like,
those
I
days.
don't have
Pretty
to.
often.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't have to go to a competition once a month. I do need to give myself a break,
that's true. We
you
wail,
know?
girl, we wail in May, in May.
Yeah. And those are the things, like, looking forward to either a competition and then looking forward to a good deload,
Mhm.
looking forward to those real rest days and, those
Yeah.
good moods. Going outside when it's nice for a walk, that is a workout.
Oh, I do love that.
Driving and going to see concerts for a whole week, that is a
That'd be amazing.
relax and a reset, right? Track your moods on what is making you feel good. Reach out to
That's
your
true.
workout friend. Talk to your coach about, "Hey, I'm feeling this way when I come into the gym. Have you ever felt this way?" Tracy,
Yeah,
have you ever felt like quitting
it's crazy.
CrossFit? I don't think you've gone through it yet.
Oh, I mean, I did have my moment when I had my weightlifting accident. It was more just like I was upset more than like I wanted to quit. If anything, I wanted to get back in the gym kind of thing.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't think I've hit my wall yet, I suppose. But yeah, I guess the injury was the closest thing too, just because I was like, it's never gonna be the same. My
Yeah.
body's not gonna be the same as this injury. So it was a lot of that, a lot of feeling sorry for Joycey. But I think initially my initial thought was just like, I just want to get back in it. I just want to go back. Because like you said, it was the only place that made me happy. And everything else just was like not doing it. And so
I
for
feel
me,
like
like, yeah, that was like having to take my mind back to just like, okay, we got to start from scratch. It's
Mhm.
not that I guess quitting was never a thing. It was just like, God, it's going to be hard to get back into it kind of thought.
And I feel like people who stay do
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
Like, even when I say, like, I wanna quit, I feel like it was more like, I don't wanna do this workout. I don't wanna be here. I have a really bad attitude, and I don't wanna be here about
Yeah,
this
that's what
workout.
it is.
More of like, I wanna quit this day compared to I wanna quit here. And
It was more just like, I'm so jealous that they get to do it, and, like, now I'm
Mhm.
losing all my progress because these people are now growing, and I'm over here just, like, stagnant. I think it was a lot of those feelings, and it wasn't the people's fault, obviously.
No.
It was just, like, the bad situation, but you can't help but be a negative Nancy in that moment because 'cause you're just like, "Oh, man, my world is" I guess CrossFit, my world just fell
Yeah.
to the floor, and now I'm just like, "What do I do with myself?" You know?
It was. When I hurt my back and couldn't, like, lifting a PVC pipe was
Mhm.
horrible. I had to retrain, and I would tell people because I didn't realize the mental, just bomb that showing up to just coach people was so hard. I
Mm,
can't even lift a PVC pipe, and I have to tell you it's okay that you're still on the orange bar. Because I want
mm.
you to build better technique. I want you to brace more. I want you to do all these things. And I wish that people would remember that. That yes, it sucks that you're at that orange bar and you see people using our yellow or blue bars,
Or
or if
hitting
we want to go into weight.
PRs and
Yeah.
yeah.
And I understand that. But I'm also gonna understand when somebody couldn't lift anything and now you're lifting something. You be very proud of yourself.
Mm,
And I have to tell others, on my soapbox that when I go around and go, "Have you ever weightlifted in your life?" No. Have you ever done
mm,
a clean? Have you ever done a snatch? No. Have you ever done burpee box jumps while doing this weightlifting? No. And you did all of that. You need to be proud
no.
that you just did all of that. It's going to take time
Wow.
for technique. It's going to take time for all these things, but please be proud of yourself for coming in and doing things that you never did.
Yeah,
You know?
that's incredible, yeah. That's
It
something.
is. And we need to
Yeah,
think
girl.
about, like, doing these things for intention and not for addiction, not replacing it with something in our life. Because then it will become a burnout. And you'll just overdo it. And you don't
That's
want to.
true.
This is the longest thing I've stuck with. And I want people to do that too. So be very mindful of yourself. If you're having those, I don't want to come in, I don't reach out to me, reach out to a coach if you if you don't go to our gym. You know, you have to tell people what's going on because you're adult, and 9 times out of 10, everybody's in a great CrossFit community nowadays and
I was
made
gonna
their
say,
friends that way and can do those things. And
and it's probably more likely than not that people are probably feeling the same way, and you're, not alone, and they need to hear that. So you never know.
yeah, and just remember you can love something and change how you do it. We can
Right.
always grow. You can compete but also rest. You can be driven but at the same time balanced. And you could be savagely skilled all the time and still be sustainable.
That's right. I'm like, that's right, girl. The dirty word, guys. It's a superpower. Let's just
It
say that.
is. Modifying scaling is not. It is things that when you're doing accessory and stuff, it's to
Yeah,
for my accessory, it's always doing heavier than the following week. I'm not set up with, "Oh, you have to hit 70 or you didn't RX it." You
that's
modify
true.
something to grow something. If you're going in there and you're like, "Hey, I feel all these pull-ups, like, when I try to do strict just in my shoulders, can we do stuff that is obviously your lats are not engaging? So, can we try some lat engagement
I was like,
exercises
how do we
instead
do
of
it?
pull-ups?" Yeah, when you go like we all are like, "Okay, ready? Let's go into that first pull-up."
It's the hardest part. It's
Instead
like,
of just using our lats and pulling it activating
oh, is that what
everything
it is?
else.
Yeah, I always go like,
Yeah, you gotta feel it, like, even when I do that, I feel it
well, kind
right
of
in
like
there.
the,
Yeah, if you do your shoulders, you're gonna get stuck, like, you can't go anywhere.
that's smart.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
you
didn't
gotta
think of it
feel
that
it in
way.
your lats and in that back, and if we can't feel it, then how
Another one.
let me just show you my muscles,
Oh,
but
yours are way bigger.
if you can't feel the muscle that I'm asking you to feel in this workout, what can we do better? What can I
True.
do better as a coach? And I know that you ain't coming in and doing it early or after. So what can we do right now in
Same.
class?
Calling you up. Not just kidding.
It's just people don't
I
have
was
time.
one of those people. I was one of those
Yeah.
people.
If you need help, can we do this lat activation while people are doing the pull-ups? Yes, we can. Is it gonna
So
take
true.
longer than Sarah over there? Yes, it is, but is your
Probably.
name Sarah? No. We're just
Yeah,
wrapping
Tanika
up.
and pull-ups.
Yeah.
Let her do the pull-ups.
You know, it's better to do the work on things than I haven't grown in 6 months. I
That's
bet you
true.
have. You just haven't grown in the way that you wanted,
Mhm.
you know?
That's a good point. And that gets us every time. Because if you're like me, stubborn, and you don't get things your way, you tend to feel like you're defeated when really it's not
Yeah.
a defeat at all.
Sometimes you're not gonna get you should aim for one or the other right now.
I need to get my handstand push-ups. And it's a long journey because even I, 6 years in, sometimes struggle with that. So be kind to yourself. Practice grace with that, I would say.
Yeah. You know,
Yep.
you're not weak, you're human.
Yep.
And sometimes staying doesn't mean grinding harder. It means, adjusting smarter,
Amen.
Which, on that note, if this episode is your swig of pre workout, or maybe your permission to rest, give yourself that rest day by listening to our
I like
episode.
that.
Make sure you hit that follow button. You can also subscribe to
Mhm.
our YouTube. Listen to us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon also, or on Spotify. Rate us, give us those 5 stars, leave a review. That help us with everything. Sharing with someone who may need this to be like, hey, I haven't seen
True.
you at the gym. Are any of these things happening to you? Because guess what? There's a light at the end of the tunnel. They said it. It's dark, but you can see the light.
That's true.
But if you have an episode you want us to deep dive into, or if you're an affiliate and you want to be a part of our affiliate segment, you can DM us at Savagely Scaled. You can email us. Would love for that email at savagelyscaled at, sorry, let me backtrack. Our email is savagelyscaled1 at gmail.com. And feel free to just shoot us an email at DM. Hey, I'm the best affiliate in Arizona. I'm the best affiliate in Southern California. I'm the
That's
best
right.
affiliate in Utah. And we'd love to sit down with you and see how and why and what you do for the community and what the community thinks about you.
That's
But
right.
remember, don't be a Karen
Be a sharer.
and keep sharing all this love that we
That's
give to
right.
you.
I
And
love it.
until